Everyone, Tim Anderson here, aka Renfell, and welcome to the latest episode of my YouTube channel, which is doing all sorts of crazy things recently. Most importantly, I want to talk about plans for November and December. So basically the last couple of months of 2020, what I'm going to be focusing on here at the YouTube channel. So one of the big things that everyone's been waiting on is Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which I'm going to be playing throughout the month of November. It's probably going to be taking up the majority of my streaming sessions for the month, at least for my morning sessions. I'm still going to be playing Lord of the Rings online with my brother periodically, probably 2 or 3 times per week during the evenings, but my morning streams are going to be filled mostly with working my way through Assassin's Creed Valhalla through the month of November. Now, I'm really glad that Cyberpunk 2077 was pushed back another month, because originally that game was supposed to come out around a week after Assassin's Creed Valhalla came out. And I was a little concerned, like, how am I going to have time to play both of these games? Because I know for a fact, having played from Assassin's Creed Odyssey, you know, I got 80 hours out of my first gameplay in that game, you know, over a month. Witcher 3, I got like 120 hours of gameplay out of my first gameplay over the course of like 6 weeks. So these are games that are meant to be played out over long periods of time. And I'm not a person who does speed runs, and I don't try to rush through it in like 5 days. These are games that I want to be able to sink my teeth into. I'm very much a completionist when I play these games. Not 100% completionist, but I do like to explore every nook and cranny I possibly can on my way through, and I'm not in a hurry to see everything as quickly as possible. I want to be able to take my time and really just kind of methodically immerse myself into the game world and get as much out of it as I possibly can. Assassin's Creed Valhalla, I know from what I've seen and what I've read, I'm not anticipating a lot that is different from Odyssey in terms of kind of like the gameplay. You know, the questing system is pretty much the same. The combat system is pretty much the same. The way you skill up your character between choosing whether or not you want to be a sneaky assassin type or a melee type or things of that nature, that's all kind of similar here, and it doesn't look like they're kind of branching off and breaking the mold too much with the way that they're focused on this game. So, alright, cool. You know, I'm not expecting anything groundbreaking in terms of the changes from Assassin's Creed Odyssey to Assassin's Creed Valhalla. What I am really interested in and looking forward to is the story. I've said this in the past, streaming, I've talked to people about this. My great-grandmother was from Finland. I have a whole bunch of family from Finland, and I have a very Scandinavian background. My heritage very much is Viking in nature. And so I've always had a fascination with Viking culture, as well as Celtic culture, but that's a subject for another time and place. But the Viking culture for me has always had a special place in my heart because of the heritage of my family and where we come from. And so there is a reason for me personally to have been looking forward to this game above and beyond simply the fact that it's another Assassin's Creed game, which for the most part I've enjoyed most of them, not all of them. If I had to pick, I'd say I really think that the first 2 or 3 were really amazing, and then the middle sections I didn't like too much. Odyssey was amazing. Origins, pretty good. And Valhalla, I'm expecting Valhalla to take me beyond there. Now, because I've also had this obsession with Celtic history, that leads me to also having invested a lot of time over the years into everything that is Great Britain and England and the cultures around there and the kingdoms. And of course, you know, with my wife enjoying shows like Vikings and The Last Kingdom and so on and so forth, there's been, from a familiar setting, our family has been very invested in Viking culture and English culture over the past few years, as well from an entertainment perspective. So there's a lot of different reasons that I'm looking forward to Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and that's, for me, like I said, the month of November is going to be spent almost exclusively streaming this game, at least, like I said, in the morning sessions, which is when I typically do the bulk of my streaming anyway, because I like to get up in the morning, have a cup of coffee, sit down, and have 2 or 3 hours to myself where I just kind of let loose and explore these game worlds. I'm going to look up something real quick. So I'm looking. There's a Reddit thread here, which I thought was interesting. I wanted to bring up while I was doing here. There's a Reddit thread from a few months ago where it says, "What is everyone most looking forward to from Valhalla so far?" First comment is, "I'm really looking forward to dual wielding to dismemberment," which, okay, that's fine. But this is the one I like. Being able to build and upgrade a settlement. Black Flag is still one of my favorite games because of the upgrading of buildings, and I do have to admit that that's going to be something that I really am looking forward to as well with the settlement. Now, you kind of had that with the ship in Odyssey, in the sense that you start off with a base ship and then you could upgrade the ship over time. But I think a settlement is more personal because it's more than just you and something that you're attacking with. It's actually, it's your village, it's your people, it's your livelihood. It's your base of operations and so on and so forth. So that's I admit that the settlement aspect is going to be a lot of fun too. There's also the hunting and the fishing, which is going to be fun as well. So you can't discredit those things. Someone here, this is funny, someone is complaining that they said that they didn't like how big the map was in Odyssey. So a smaller map that's more packed with things to do is going to be perfect. I actually disagree. That's one of the things I loved about Odyssey, was just how massive the world was and going between all the islands. But it made sense in that game because you had the ship, and so there was all the ship-based combat. So there were things for you to do in between going to the various destinations, because you engaged in ship-based combat as well. Dual wielding shields I really don't care about in this game, although it is something that people are talking about. I'm seeing a lot of people talking about the settlement building and the customizations for the settlement being something they hope that the game is focused a lot on. I kind of have to agree with that. Of course, I think that there's also the aspect of the hidden ones and this ongoing storyline that's been happening since the first game, of this ancient race of beings who were basically the gods who created the Garden of Eden and populated the planet and created humans and so on and so forth. There is an aspect of that ongoing storyline that always intrigues me, and I think it's fun to see that sort of progress. But you also have to admit that they haven't really ever pushed that storyline too much. It's just kind of something that they throw in as kind of an, oh, and by the way, there's also this mysterious stuff going on which gives them the background for the Animus. Now, one of the things I really liked in the movie adaptation, which I know some people didn't like, but I did. My wife and I have watched it a few times now. The thing I liked about the movie adaptation is they had a lot of focus on the real world and the characters from the real world, and what happened in the Animus was only like half of what was going on. And I kind of feel like the modern day aspects of what's going on between the Templars and the Assassins has kind of fallen to the wayside since the first couple of games, where it definitely was a major component of the storyline. These days, it's kind of like the modern day setting is just kind of it's kind of like a matte painting that's back there in the background, kind of to say, oh, this whole game is based on the fact that your character or the person in the real world is getting into the Animus and experiencing this, this past life through the DNA. But I would really hope that one day they bring that to the forefront and we see the Assassin's Creed game go from being just about what was in the past to being all about what's in the present day, or even taking it into the future and having a science fiction based Assassin's Creed game where instead of playing a past life, we're actually seeing like 150 years, where they're at in 150 years, and we're playing as the person in that modern present time, Assassins versus Templars. I think that could be fun, but we'll see. I also love the fact that they're already talking about an Assassin's Creed game set in Japan during the feudal periods with the samurai. That sounds like a lot of fun. And if I'm not mistaken, that's going to be the next place where they go in the series. I think that's the rumor that's going on right now. We'll see. Let's see here. A lot of people are praising this game for the fact that it's going to be set during, the time of the Anglo-Saxons, and we're going to get to see historically what was going on during the Vikings raiding England, what was going on there. Especially if you're someone who's watched the show Vikings or the Last Kingdom show. These are both shows that take place during this time period. So we've seen this fascination in the last, say, 10 years, 5 to 10 years. We've seen a fascination with this time period, and I think it's going to be interesting to see a game dive into this. If you could take anything away from the last couple of games that they've done with Origins and Odyssey, the Assassin's Creed series has become famous not only for the time periods that they're set in, but for the attention to detail when it comes to the world building and the settings. And they've got the discovery mode that teachers are using around the world in universities, and allowing you to go in and essentially get a tour guide that takes you through these hotspots. I know that Origins, it started off in Origins, and then it was praised highly in Odyssey. I actually talked about this in a video episode that I did on the overview of Odyssey maybe a couple of months ago, where because of COVID, there was this teacher from Canada. His students had to have their trip to Greece canceled because of COVID, and so when he realized that they weren't going to be able to go, he got a copy of Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and his students were able to basically go on this virtual tour of the ancient waypoints, the ancient points of interest within Greece, instead of being able to physically go there, which I thought was really cool because they're actually using a video game for course curriculum. So I'm sure that we're going to see the same amount. Everything I've seen so far in terms of the detail given to how these settlements are set up and how the villages are set up, and the major cities that we're going to be seeing in the game. I also hope that we see something with Stonehenge. That would be very interested to this. We'll see. We'll see. I know a lot of people who live in England are saying that they can't wait to see their hometowns explored in the historical format of this game. So we'll see if they do it credit, but I think they will. Beyond that, there's a whole bunch of I think from a storyline perspective, from a historical perspective, we're set during 873 AD, which is a very interesting time period. And I think the other thing that some people say that's going to be interesting about this game is that the storyline for Valhalla is going to be more grounded in a historical approach to the Vikings as opposed to the fantastical version of the Vikings, which we often see portrayed in media. So I don't know. We're gonna see. I think from the storyline, they've said that one set of the storyline is going to be following the character of Ivor. Whether it's the male or female character, both are canon. The other storyline is going to be focused on the settlement's growth, and the other one's going to be the conflict between the Hidden Ones and the Order of Ancients. So it's going to be very fun to see how those storylines come together. I think the other thing that I'm really looking forward to, and I know my wife is too, is being introduced to or seeing how they portray Alfred, who is the King of Wessex at this time, and he was an extremely proud and pious man. And he's also well known in history as being the only king in the history of England to successfully hold his own against the Viking invasions during the time that he was king of Wessex. Now, this is a king who is well known. I mean, he died early. They suspect that he had some sort of gastrointestinal disorder. You know, they don't know for sure because, you know, we can't go back that far, but all the accounts talk about how, you know, he really couldn't eat meat and, you know, he was just always rail thin and had a lot of health problems. But despite that, you know, he was this badass king who defended against the Vikings. And if you've watched The Last Kingdom on Netflix, which you absolutely should if you have not, Uther, yeah, that's all I'm going to say about that. You really need to watch The Last Kingdom. The portrayal of King Alfred in that show is incredibly well done. The whole show, The Last Kingdom, is a very good show. I mean, obviously there are fantastical elements to it, but it is. I think The Last Kingdom is a better show than Vikings, but that's just my personal take on things. Vikings was a very good show. I watched it religiously until they, you know, spoiler alert, until Ragnar Lothbrok goes away and it moves on to the story of his sons. That's kind of when I lost interest in that show. But Uhtred, son of Uhtred, yeah, Last Kingdom. You can't lose The Last Kingdom. So I am looking forward to how they portray King Alfred in this show. We'll see. But they've also got the Sons of Ragnar in this show, who claim to be the sons in this game, who claim to be the sons of the legendary Ragnar Lothbrok. So we're going to come up against Ivar Ua and Halfdan Ragnarson, and each one of those guys is very different. We're also going to showcase the Cult of Mithras. This game is going to have so much lore and history and fun in it, so I'm really looking forward to it. So that's kind of my overview discussion, ladies and gentlemen, on what I'm going to be doing for the month of November. I'm going to be focused on Assassin's Creed Valhalla, so you're going to want to stick around, stay tuned, sign up to the channel, subscribe, hit the bell icon so you get updates. I typically stream, like I said, I'll be streaming most of my Valhalla sessions during the morning hours into probably the afternoons, depends on my work schedule. Evenings, I'll be playing Lord of the Rings Online with my brother from time to time, 2 or 3 times a week. And in between there, I'll be, of course, doing some NBA 2K21 as I continue my sharpshooter throughout Season 2. That's going to also be happening throughout the month of November. And more updates for the live reading of Book 1 of the Saga of Leucemia, Echoes of the Past. And I'm still working on that science fiction short story that I'm writing live on YouTube. So thanks everyone, and I'll see you here. We're going to be streaming in, looks like a little over a week. We're going to be streaming Assassin's Creed Valhalla, so can't wait. See you all in game.